Welcome to another video, and this time around we are looking at our Bloomsbury 40k digital safes. You may have come across this video from a link from my article, Which Safe is Best for Home, and this is literally my favourite safe, or my favourite range of safes, because it does come in 4 sizes. So the 4 sizes are labelled 1, 2, 3 and 4, and in front of us we have the size 2. There will be a specific video on this particular size, but this video is more in generic terms about all 4. In fact, really there's 8 safes, because there's 4 like this with a digital keypad, and there's also the 4 same sizes, 1, 2, 3 and 4, but with a simple key lock. There are many reasons why I consider this to be the best safe for home, but I'm going to jump right in and go for the main one to begin with, and then look at all the others. So I'm going to open the safe up with the default code, which is no secret. The safe is now open. OK light tells us the solenoid is engaged. I can now open the bolts. We're going to go into all of that soon. All of the safes come with a removable shelf and a carpet, but that's not what we're talking about right at the moment. I'm going to remove those. So the carpet is set to one side now, and the shelf, and now we're going to look at the main feature that makes this the best safe, and that is the anchoring points. And as I go into the safe, on the back of the safe you can see 4 bolt holes. That in itself is unusual, to come across 4 bolt holes, but this safe has actually got 8 bolt holes, and you can see there are 4 more in the base. I'm not sure if you can quite see all 4. 2 at the back, and 1 there, and 1 there. Well, why is that so great? Well, many safes just come with a couple of holes. You might have 1 hole in the base. Even Euro grade safes at a higher rating than this might have one in the base, or 2 possibly, and 1 in the back, whereas this has got 8 fixings. What this means is we can bolt the safe into your property, into your home or business, extremely robustly. It gives us so much scope to make a great installation that the burglar is going to struggle to remove this safe. And bear in mind, most decent safes are not opened by burglars. That isn't what they do. They can't open them, and I'm going to go into the reasons why a typical burglar can't open a safe like this. What they'll attempt to do is to get it out of your property, to try and get it out and try and take it somewhere else to another location and break it open using whatever, trying to drive a lorry over it, a JCB, who knows, craziness. But this is the important thing, that we can bolt it into your property and prevent them from getting it out, and that's what we attempt to do. So the process of installing the safe in your home involves what we're looking at here. These are known as anchors, expanding bolts, fixings, fastenings, lots of different names for the same thing. This puny little fellow that we're looking at here is the one that comes typically with safes that you buy on the internet. And I've seen them in safes that cost £40 or £50, and I've seen them in safes shipped with safes that cost as much as £300 or £400. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this compared with typical bolts or fixings that we use, and I'll drop them next to it. You can now see the difference. These aren't the bolts that we exclusively use, but more often than not, when we're bolting to a brick wall or into a concrete floor, these are the fixings that we use. These are 12mm bolts by various lengths. I've just picked out a few. These are 70mm, these are 100mm, and these are 120mm, and we have longer depending on what surface we're going into. And they go into this 14mm expanding anchor. So this is one assembled. We always use a washer, and you'll see that this is going to screw into this expanding anchor. A hole is drilled in the wall. This is inserted, much like putting a shelf up, just on a much grander scale. And as the bolt is drawn into, we do it up with a spanner, is drawn into the fixing expands and grips into the brickwork, and the safe is bolted up to the wall. So with the safe flipped around, we can see the back of the safe, and we can see the 4 fixing holes. and then you can imagine that these are the holes that we use to bolt the safe up. So if we were to attend your property and we're installing this safe, and let's say for argument's sake all we've got available to us in your particular location is to bolt the safe through the back onto a brick wall, it's going to look something like this. So as you can see, these are 4 of the 100mm bolts that are now protruding out of the safe, and they'll be going into a hole, into these anchors, into the wall behind, and you've now got a very robust installation. But it doesn't end there, because we've still got these 4 other holes, and we're not going to leave them blank like that. So I've got here a wood screw, a regular wood screw with a what we call a penny washer. And if this was in a typical wardrobe and this is sitting on a piece of joinery like my workbench here, but the back of the safe with those big bolts we've bolted to the wall, which might be behind the panel, there's a whole video coming on installation, but this is just a brief taster. We can add resistive strength to this installation, even though it's already much stronger than most, as I described, with just some of these. 4 of these wood screws, each one might add another 10 or 15 kilos of resistive force, so it takes another 40 or 60 kilos to yank it out on top of what we've got at the back, which can be measured in hundreds of kilos. It's going to be very, very difficult to remove this safe. So the fact that we can install this safe incredibly strongly in your property is the main reason that I think this is the best safe for home. But now I'm going to go into all the other reasons, and the manufacturer of this safe really has ticked all the boxes. Likewise, of course, if it's round the other way and the floor is concrete, then we can bolt using the bolts that we were previously talking about in the wall down into the concrete floor. And then if the back was a wooden panel, then we could use the wood screws into the wooden panel. If in an ideal scenario we've got a concrete floor and a brick wall, then we would use 8 of these, 4 down into the floor and 4 into the wall, which would be an incredibly strong installation. So we've been supplying and installing these safes since 1995, so coming on for 25 years, and we've never had one stolen and we've never had one broken into, and astonishingly we've never had one go wrong. No customer has ever called us and said, I've got a problem with the keypad, it doesn't work, or anything like that. Occasionally they might call us and say, oh, the battery's gone flat, I can't get into the safe, but we're going to go through that now. The manufacturer's thought of all of those things. This safe is made in a state-of-the-art factory in northern Italy that I've been to myself, and it really is an incredible facility with real engineers making this. They're not just churning them out, they're constantly improving and striving to make the best possible product and bring it to you. The front of the safe is made from one single slab of 10mm steel, which makes it very, very strong. But what they've done with this particular safe is very clever, is the door is cut from that particular slab of 10mm steel with a roboticized laser. And what this means is the gap between the door, and if you want to call this the door frame, is so tiny that I can barely get my fingernail into it. And if you imagine that one of the things a burglar will try to do is to get a screwdriver or a chisel or something, or a cold chisel and a hammer, and try and drive it into this gap, or a crowbar or something, and try and prise the door open. It just doesn't happen with this safe. You can't get any tooling into this gap. And that is another reason that this is the best safe for home. So behind this membrane keypad, as you can imagine, is all the lock mechanism. And one of the ways that a burglar might attempt to open a safe, I mean it's very, very rare, but is to drill a hole, is to try and drill holes into the front of the safe and try and find vulnerable points that might defeat the lock mechanism. Well, the manufacturer of this safe has got that covered. They've installed a sheet of manganese steel behind the vulnerable parts of the lock mechanism, and manganese steel is one of the hardest materials to drill on the planet Earth. It just burns your drill bits. You can't drill through it. I mean, there are hard plate bits, but even to drill through it with hard plate bits, you could go through half a dozen or a dozen drill bits and you still haven't successfully made one hole, whereas you need to make dozens of holes through this to try to get to the vulnerable parts. That's another reason why this is one of the best safes for home, if not the best. Another fantastic feature of this safe is the membrane keypad. Most keypads on safes are like a button that goes in and out, and there's a spring involved. Well, this particular safe has got a membrane keypad, so it's like just a little depression to make contact and to key in the numbers. I mean, it won't do anything now until I turn it on. This means it lasts much longer. It's a much harder wearing keypad, again making this the best safe for home. In addition to that, the manufacturer of this particular safe has had the forethought to install an emergency key system. So if you were to forget your code, you can still get into the safe with the secret keyhole that it's got and the 2 keys that it comes with. If we focus down here, we can see this little E for emergency. That's actually soft because that's a little cover, and that's a keyhole, which I'll show you now. So that actually peels off. It's just self-adhesive. You can actually put it back, but the manufacturer gives you 2 spares in case you ever need to do it. And they give you these 2 keys, which will get you in to this secret keyhole and open the safe, which I'll show you in a sec. Just a word on the keys: don't keep them inside the safe, and it's best to keep them somewhere else, at work or a neighbours or a relatives or something that somewhere you trust, so that if you need them in a hurry, if you forget your code, you can get into the safe. So I've got a key in there now. The safe is locked, it won't open. Unlock the safe, and now I can open the safe, and you're in. A brilliant system. Another great feature about this safe is the way that the manufacturer has thought about if the battery goes flat. It could happen. You might not use the safe for a long time. It does warn you actually as you're using the safe and tapping your code in routinely. As the batteries are depleting, you'll get that light come up. It'll go, oh, it'll warn you that, you know, I might need my new batteries. Batteries last anywhere up to 3 or 4 years sometimes in these safes, especially with these energizer cells. This particular safe uses 4 AA cells. However, we do recommend that you change them annually. You know, pop it in your diary and change them annually. Moving on to what happens if that battery's flat. You'll see down here on the front of the keypad we've got a minus and a plus, if the camera will focus, and they correspond with the terminals plus and minus on a standard 9-volt battery. This is a battery for a smoke alarm, and you find your safe locked, you can't get in, the battery's flat. What you're going to do is you're going to press the battery on there. I'm holding the phone in the other hand, but you're going to tap your number in, open the safe, go inside and change the batteries. So let's look at the batteries now. I'm going to open the safe with the default code. It's open, and the batteries live in that little door. You just need to take that screw out that I'm going to do now, and the door will just pop off, and there's your 4 AA size batteries. Again, we generally always use now industrial cells. We find they're the best. Another reason this is a great safe is this safe is certified and tested to the European standard EN 14450, and there's 2 grades in that. This is a grade S2, and S2 means it's suitable for insurance purposes for either £4,000 in cash, or up to £4,000 in cash, or up to £40,000 worth of valuables. Another reason this is the best safe for home are what we call the bolt work. On this size 2, you've got 1 bolt at the top, 2 bolts on the side, and another bolt underneath. These are 20mm free turning chromium bolts. The idea of that is if someone's trying to hacksaw, although there's really no way they could get a hacksaw in that gap, but they were trying to hacksaw, the bolt rotates rather than yielding and allowing someone to cut into it. And the door itself, as you can see, very robustly constructed. And on many safes, when the bolts engage, they simply engage behind something, whereas with this particular safe, they've welded in these heavy channels, and the bolts themselves actually engage into these holes. The bottom one would engage into this one, and likewise on the side, which makes it much stronger and harder for anyone to try and get any tooling in and prise open. Another reason this is the best safe for home is the way that the carcass of the safe is actually made. You can't see any seams, there's no seams anywhere, and that's because this is made of plate steel that's welded together, but it's welded in such an excellent way that you can't see where it's been welded, and that's because the welding all takes place on the inside, and they weld internally with robots. and the rear, as you can see, is the part that's welded externally, and you've got this seamless, perfect weld all the way around the safe here on the back. The reason this is the best safe for home is the way the hinge has been designed. The hinge is one solid piece that's welded onto the door itself, and the hinge pins are actually completely hidden. There's no way of attacking them because, as you see when I shut the safe and lock it, there's nothing here. How are you going to attack a hinge if it doesn't show itself? Another reason this is the best safe for home is the fact that the front is completely flush. Why is that an advantage? If we just look at how flush it is here. The reason is many of our clients will have this safe installed in some fitted joinery, fitted wardrobe, walk-in wardrobe, something like that. And it gives the flush front gives the ability for the joiner or the cabinet maker to make a false panel to go in front of it, which can have magnets on it because this is steel, and it could just be held on by 4 magnets or 6 magnets, and the client knows that if they pull in a certain place, that piece of joinery will open and reveal the safe. Yet another reason why this is my favourite safe. The lock itself is certified to EN 1300 Class A, which means it's an excellent lock. And this safe is approved by the Association of Insurance Surveyors, which you know means it's a good, reliable, solid safe. So at the beginning I explained how this was my favourite range of safes, and I just want to go a little bit further into the sizes of the safe. I'm not going to talk about the specifics of the size, but you know there's a size 1, there's a size 2, there's a size 3 and there's a size 4. This is the size 2. I think you've got an idea of how big it is, and there is the specific video coming up on all the sizes. It's the size 2, 3 and 4 that I would recommend. The size 1 is a bit too small. It's not very large inside. It's fine as a second safe, but it's not very large inside at all, and it doesn't have the mass to have that additional kind of weightiness to it. It's still made from all the same materials, etc., but it's the size 2, 3 or 4 that I would recommend. Specifically the size 3 is the one to go for, really, but the size 4, if you need that extra room and you want to put jewelry boxes and watch boxes, things like that, the size 3 and 4 are going to be better suited to that. I hope you've enjoyed this video, as enjoyable as they can be talking about safes, but it's what I do, and maybe that's what you're here for. So we supply and install these safes in London and the home counties. We operate in a 90-mile radius from our base in Hatfield in Hertfordshire. So we do cover a very large territory, and one of us will come and install it for you. We don't use subcontractors. A lot of our online retailer competitors do. They'll just get the safe shipped to you by a courier, and then a few days later some locksmith or other they found online will turn up to install it. He won't know what we know. You really need us to install your safe. We will do it in such a way that it's very, very difficult for the burglar to try and remove the safe. It will be done by a professional who's a vetted employee of ours, who will arrive in an unmarked van. He will show you the safe, demonstrate how to use it, demonstrate how to set your own personal code, obviously, which will eradicate the factory code. That's gone once that's set, so there's no fear of that. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Check us out online. We are londonsafes.co.uk. I apologise for the production values, but I am filming in my workshop with my phone, and I'm doing the best I can. But what we're really good at is installing safes. Thanks very much. Bye-bye. And last thing, I just remembered, we issue a certificate of installation. So you'll get a certificate, it's a method statement, and it will actually describe where we installed the safe, how we installed the safe, what fixings and anchors, remember we looked at those we used to install the safe, and it will be signed, and that is what you need for your insurance company. If the worst should ever happen, and we do our damnedest to make sure it doesn't happen, you've got what you need. We suggest you take a digital copy of it as well, but you've got what you need to show your insurance company that you've got the right safe and that it was installed professionally. So just a word on insurance ratings. We've got a whole section on insurance ratings on our website. As you've probably already gathered, different safes have different insurance ratings. When I say this is the best safe for home, I mean the best overall safe. You need to make sure it's compliant for insurance purposes for your risk. And as I said, this is rated at £4,000 or up to £4,000 in cash or up to £40,000 in valuables. However, that doesn't mean that you can't have more than one. You just double those ratings if you have two. We can even fit one on top of the other. Sometimes we put three on top of the other, and that will give you triple the rating. So that's something else to consider. Yeah, thanks again. Bye-bye.
Free delivery and free installation. Your safe will be delivered and professionally installed by one of our own vetted employees who will arrive in an unmarked vehicle. Get in touch online or call us on 0800 711 7892.